All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of what I think is going to be called KickSaga. And that's the working title, so we'll see if that sticks around. But this is a video interview series I want to do where I'm going to interview first time Kickstarter self publishers who are bringing their tabletop game to life. And this is their kind of their first experience. And before we jump into the first interview today, just really quick, I'll introduce myself and kind of give a quick background on why I'm doing this. So my name's Matthew Rodella. I am an aspiring game designer and publisher. I run my own web design and marketing company, and I've been a lifelong gamer and game fan. I've gone back and forth between video games and tabletop games and card games throughout my life. Found a renewed passion for board games within the last few years. And then, of course, the creation design bug struck me earlier this year. And so I've been working on a couple games. And I thought, as I was researching my own games and kind of what it would take to get them out on the market, I was, looking for information about what makes a successful Kickstarter. And because that seems to be the path you need to take, right? If you want to self-publish. And there's lots of good information out there, but a lot of it is written by a handful of pretty successful people. And you don't typically see the stories of most of the other Kickstarters you see that are out there that, you see some good games that fund, you see some good games, but they don't fund. And you wonder, well, what's the difference between those two? Why did this game fund? Why did this game not fund? And what can we learn from that? So I'm hoping through this interview series that we can bring on folks who are in a similar situation than me, and probably as a lot of you guys who are listening to this, where they've got an idea, they're working on a game, they're ready to release it to the world, and they're going to crowdfund it on Kickstarter. And we're going to start with an interview before the Kickstarter starts to see kind of all the stuff they did to prep. And then we'll do a follow-up interview with them right after their Kickstarter finishes. And then we'll, whether it's successful or not, we'll learn, what they learned from the process. And if it's not successful, what they're going to do moving forward. If it is successful, what they're kind of preparing and getting in place so that they can deliver the project. And hopefully this will be helpful for those of you listening. I'm sure it's going to be helpful for me. So if anything, I'm going to get a lot out of it. And then hopefully have you guys along for the ride if you're interested. So without further ado, I have my first guest. And I met this guest in the Facebook groups, some of the Facebook groups that are out there. I think it's the Board Game Design Lab group specifically, it's a great Facebook group. If you guys haven't joined it, it's a great website, great resources, great Facebook group, great podcast. I met Evan here, Evan Johnson, who is working on his game called Zoo King. Hey, Evan, how's it going?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for doing this. I was excited to get to know you and be able to play test your game and learn that it was coming to Kickstarter like within a week after I play tested it. And so I'm like, oh man, this is a perfect opportunity to get the show kicked off.
Yeah.
And this is a great game to do it with too, because the game seems like a lot of fun and it looks great. And so I'm really excited to see how it does.
Yeah,
So,
it'll be interesting.
yeah, I know, right? I'm sure you're kind of excited or nervous about that as well.
Yeah.
So why don't you kick things off by telling folks a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got started in the board game design world?
Yeah. So I work full time at a software company as an account manager. Um, pretty normal dude, I guess. Like everyone else in the board game design group is. I know a lot of people are trying to transition to make this kind of like a full time sort of thing. For me, I've just always enjoyed playing board games, but I never really went too deep into it until the pandemic, when we had more time to play games, and then also when I decided to make my game, I really dove into it and learned a lot. and I found out that most people would probably call me a casual gamer, or say that I like to say that I'm stuck in the gateway,
Yeah.
because as someone who is very busy with everything I got going on, like all of us are, right? Got two little ones at home. When my wife and I mostly want to play games, or when we have people over and we finally get the kids down and have time to play games, we're usually playing a lighter, or a medium weight sort of card game or strategy game. Um, so when the pandemic hit, um, I decided that I was going to make my own board game, because we had kind of played the ones that we had within that weight, and I was looking for something new. And I was looking for something that was zoo themed, because I've always loved animals. I loved playing Zoo Tycoon as a kid. So basically, I said, hey, is there a game out there that is basically Zoo Tycoon in a board game or a card game? And it didn't exist. And being someone that has a background as a creator, um, I just decided, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. So I decided to jump into the design world.
Nice. And so, what made you decide to go the self-publishing route instead of trying to pitch it to a publisher or that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think there's two main reasons I decided to take it on myself. I wanted the learning experience. For some time, I've kind of been thinking of, how can I self improve? Should I go get a master's? Should I, what should I do? And this kind of happened or came to me, and I thought, well, this is going to be a crash course, almost like a master's course in design, marketing, manufacturing, the whole, starting a company. Be it a very small one right now, you don't really have a company or product, but just the learning experience of it all. And also, I think the control, because I wanted in the end to make it a game that I can play for the rest of my life and enjoy it. So I wanted that creative control over the project also.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, have you started a business before, or is this kind of your first foray into entrepreneurship as well?
No, this is my first business. I've always been around business, been involved, being on boards or things. But this is the first time I kind of put my name and money to it.
Nice. Yep. Awesome. Okay, so let's dig into. So this is not. I would love to dig in more and talk about the design process with you, but this is not a game design podcast. This is a Kickstarter show. So we're going to talk about the Kickstarter experience specifically. So, um, talk about a little bit about kind of your plan and how you came up with the plan to put together the Kickstarter and make it successful.
Yeah, so pretty much started from scratch. And I'm like you, I can tell just from seeing your interactions on the group. Um, you want to dive in early on and become a subject matter expert on as much as you can, and just kind of try to know the things that you don't know, discover those things, and just be a sponge and soak it up. So when I first started, I thought, hey, this game looks like I'll have it ready in 6 months, and I can kickstart it. And it would probably take me a month to prep the Kickstarter and then do the Kickstarter, and all would be good. But the more that I spoke with people, the more I tested my game, the more that I saw the need to grow an audience. Um, my timeline kept getting pushed back. So I think I started really collecting emails and doing some blind testing and kind of putting it out there about a year ago. I had already been working on it for a few months, but I kept pushing it back. The deeper I got into it, the more I saw I needed to do. Um, so that's kind of how it's gone. Started from zero email subscribers, zero. Didn't have an Instagram account. Um, and I've right now, I think you'd be interested to kind of know some of the numbers
Yeah,
before,
yeah,
to see
definitely.
how those translate into backers, if we can tell. But right now, I have about 250 on my email list. I have probably 250 Facebook followers, 1,000 on Instagram. Who knows what that means? I've got about 400 followers on my Kickstarter pre-launch page. So that's kind of where we're at right now, the day before launch. And,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
this is the
know,
day before launch. I'm not sure if we ever mentioned that actually. So
yeah,
you are launching this game tomorrow on Kickstarter. So these are the numbers, and there it is. Yep, it's awesome.
yeah.
So how did you how did you? I guess my question is, let's start with social media. What did you do to gain those followers? What kind of stuff did you post? And what did you do any kind of things to specifically try to gain followers on those platforms?
Yeah. When I started out, I just started posting some of the art I had. And I think maybe one of my findings is that it didn't really affect me here, but I probably commissioned art a little bit too soon. Fortunately for me, the game was about animals, and a lot of the art was just animals, so that wasn't really going to change. But I was able to share some of the early designs of the animals on my Instagram, and it seemed like I was able to gain a couple hundred followers just from using various hashtags and kind of putting it out there in different spaces and sharing.
Were you
Um,
looking to attract gamers, or were you looking to attract like people who are interested in animals? How did you kind of
yeah, that's a good
do it?
question. At first, I was trying to attract. Well, first I wasn't sure. I was kind of testing both, and it seemed like I was getting more traction with the animal people that were just kind of into animals. Um, so I kind of went that route a little bit to start to grow my following, and then the more material that I got about the actual game, then I started to shift my focus to board gamers because those are the people that are going to back the Kickstarter in the end. So I kind of wanted to have a base and then gain some credibility maybe by having some following and then focusing more on this target market.
I think a big mystery for folks is the whole email list idea, and how do you get people to voluntarily give you their email to sign up for a email list for a game that hasn't been created yet? So what did you do to get, because you definitely got a couple hundred folks on there, so you were doing something. What did you do to get people to sign up for your email list, and what types of folks do you think are on that list primarily?
Yeah, I'd say probably 50 of the emails are people that I know. And I'm also kind of relying on my personal network, on my Facebook network, where the day before launch and Facebook is down. So hopefully it's up tomorrow for my launch. But
Right, I noticed that. How bad timing.
yeah. So I think for a project, the size of mine, personal network is really important. If you don't have a personal network to kind of give you that initial boost, then it can get discouraging, and it might end up sinking you at when you come to launch. So I think I've got that. For the other ones, I had my basic website set up early, and I started offering a free promo card. So one of the well, we're getting a Jaguar promo card. He's not included in the base game. So if you give me your email, then when you back the Kickstarter, you'll also get this promotional Jaguar card. And I think that interested a lot of people. Like I said, I would kind of share it in different groups. When I started doing some blind playtesting and reaching out to gamers on Instagram, I'd share my website and I'd just slowly accumulate emails that way.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things you just do over time, right? And
Yep,
you're not going to get hundreds of people to sign up right away, but over a year of playtesting and talking about it, you're going to accumulate those
exactly.
followers. Cool. And then you said you had about 400 folks following the Kickstarter page,
Yeah,
the notify
and
me on launch thing. How'd you
yep.
get those folks there?
So I started doing some Facebook ads, probably, and again, small project, small budget. Um, I spent so right when you're starting a Facebook ad, you want to create, um, some different variations and test those, right? So you create one ad and then say, oh, if I change the image but keep the text, how will that perform, right? You're A/B testing. Or if I keep the same image but I change the text, or if I change the audience a little bit from board gamers who like Kickstarter to board gamers who like Kickstarter and animals. How does that work? And so I did that, and I spent about $100 over 10 days, and I got over 100 followers on the Kickstarter pre-launch page. So if those convert, at a 10% rate, then I've covered that. And then I started adjusting to say, hey, can I do better than this? And I kept adjusting and I kept spending. And the first one that I did was my best performer. So after
Nice.
after 3 weeks of testing variations and throwing more money into the ads, I just went back to the first one and I started picking up a few more.
That's funny.
But just due to my budget, I kind of stopped those for a little bit, and I said, "Hey, I'll turn them back on when the campaign gets closer." So that is probably what brought me the majority of my followers on Kickstarter. Also, just the preview videos that have gone up lately, like the what's launching this week, or my Stella's Meeple University videos. Love to Hate Games, when they posted a video a while back. Those things you'll also see, a good increase in traffic.
So that you read my mind. That was going to be my next question, is about the kind of the previews and the reviews, and those sorts of things to the influencers that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
What was your approach to that? How did you choose who to reach out to? How many paid versus free ones did you do, or how did that work?
Yeah. Well, taking it maybe a little bit step back, the other thing that was a big learning for a future project is kind of the prototype situation, because prototypes aren't cheap to get made since you're not making them in bulk, and if you're producing them locally, in the U.S. it's a little bit more expensive. And then with the whole shipping and everything, the timing of everything, sometimes I'd ask a reviewer to, if they'd be interested. But then by the time I get my prototype, um, a couple weeks had passed, and maybe it's hard to get into touch with them again. So things kind of get mixed up and pushed back. So I think maybe just planning when you're going to get your prototypes and who you're going to get them to, maybe doing that well in advance and having a good plan for that is a good idea. I really I reached out to people that covered games that I thought were a similar weight as to mine, um, and people that I just thought would enjoy it and fit it. So I reached out to a few, like I mentioned, Stella at Meeple University. I ended up having them do the how to play video also and put that on the Dice Tower. And I had her do her short and sweet previews, which are always very thematic, and my game is thematic. So, those will set you back a couple $100. And then some smaller reviewers I used that were free. So, I mean, you kind of got to hunt on Instagram or YouTube for your right fit, but there's plenty of people out there that are willing to cover your game just for, in exchange for a copy of the game once it comes out. Or, they'll maybe say, if you can, maybe, submit a donation, or they have a Patreon or something. So I've done that. Um, and kind of after my initial wave of prototypes, talking about, ordering more prototypes and the timing of everything. One thing that I did was I made a print and play version, and I just started reaching out to whoever I could. And I said, hey, if you'd be interested in covering this game either as a printable, I can email you the file, or I have it on Tabletop Simulator. If one of those works for you, I'd love to have you cover the game. And I got a decent number of people who were willing to do that also for free. So
Nice. Are you timing it so that some of those come out while after the Kickstarter goes live, or do you just are you at the whim of the person's schedule that you're giving it to?
I have like for the Stella's short and sweet preview, she's posted that already, so I've been kind of using it. But she'll also like repost it again after the campaign has launched. For some of these people, like with Love to Hate Games, I had them just publish it once they had it done, which was a couple months ago, which was, I think, a good thing, because I didn't really have much content out there as far as people talking about the game. So I think it's important to get some stuff out there early. And then I have a few little things here and there, like the Instagram accounts that will post on the day of launch. So kind of a mix of both. I don't really have too much planned for, midway through the campaign, but I can work on that still a little bit. So.
Right. Yeah, because that leads into my next question is what kind of plans do you have while the campaign is running? Because folks talk about the mid-campaign slump and that kind of
Mhm.
thing to keep the engagement going and keep the energy levels up for the game throughout the project.
Yeah, so um, I'm actually planning on releasing a rap video
Hmm.
to talk about the
Okay.
game.
Like
Uh,
you rapping?
yes, me rapping.
Nice. Oh, I can't wait for that.
So I have a little bit of a rapper history. So I have something that could be pretty cool to get some views. One of the things we're doing with the campaign too is we have one more animal card that we need to decide what animal is going to be in the game. So for the first half of the campaign, I'm having people nominate the animal in the comment section, and then midway through the campaign, we're going to open the voting, and I'll there'll be different ways that you can vote for the top, for the different nominees.
Love it.
So
Yep. I think that's really smart. Cool. What kind of resources like books or blogs or I know there's like lists and stuff of things that are out there. Did you lean on most heavily when you were kind of trying to figure out what steps to take to put together a Kickstarter campaign?
yeah, I think the board game design lab and the tabletop marketing groups that I am a part of on Facebook. I mean, I feel like I click on multiple posts from that every day just to soak up and see what's up there, see if anything's changed in the landscape. The Jamie Stegmaier blog, that's also something that I found myself going back to again and again. So say
Yeah.
those two, and just learning, from people that are in the midst of it, just like me.
Yeah, those Facebook groups are great because you constantly see a barrage of posts from people who are, learning lessons and talking about what's happening and sharing resources and stuff like that. So it's just
Yeah,
like you said, it's just a nonstop fountain of knowledge. Sometimes it can be overwhelming,
yeah, for sure.
but that leads me to another question. What do you use to kind of organize everything? Do you have like a project management software you use, or do you just like use a good old Google spreadsheet or something like that?
Yeah, I have a few different Google spreadsheets that I have. One is kind of like my Zoo King spreadsheet, everything Zoo King, and I've got like 40 tabs, and one might be, the manufacturing quote, and one is, final card list, where I'm kind of mocking up different ideas. And then I have one for like my Saratoga toy business where I kind of track all of my logins and my kind of business information and maybe my schedules. Um, so yeah,
Nice.
mostly
Cool.
spreadsheets.
Yeah, spreadsheets. I mean, they're amazing. They're so flexible, right? You just plug
Yep.
in whatever you need and you organize it, and it's great. And I love Google Sheets because you could get it on your phone, no matter what computer you're at. You just log in and you can
Exactly.
access it. So, like sometimes I'm walking my dog and I have an idea for something, and I'll just log in real quick and put it on my phone.
Yeah. I'd
Cool.
say that I
Go ahead.
always have certain tabs open on one of my computer screens, and that's I'll always have my spreadsheets open, and I'll always have Canva open. Um, so Canva is I've been in there every day. The thing I didn't anticipate was just trying to create content to post on social media to keep it fresh and active and to stay in people's feeds and in their stories. That's kind of taken up a lot of the time because sometimes you're just busy with life and you're like, oh man, I gotta work on my game, but I also need to just get something out there, some content out there, and you want it to look good. So Canva's been a nice tool to use for that.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm trying to make sure I'm taking notes, and we're going to have links to all of these resources you're mentioning in the show notes. Um, Cool. So before we wrap up, at the end, I'm going to ask you, to talk about your game and where people can find out
Sure.
about it. But before we get to that, is there anything else that you want to, talk about that we didn't cover? Maybe kind of a big stumbling block or something that you like you just mentioned, that you didn't realize was going to be as challenging as it was in the lead up to this?
You know, I'm trying to think. I think just the time management aspect. Um, you know, I'd say just give yourself as much time as you need. You can always push back your original anticipated launch date. Like I said, I thought I could get this project done in like 5 months. And then as each month passed, I learned no, I need 3 more months. And then it's kind of like this game you're chasing because you're like, okay, I'll be ready in 3 months. And then 3 months comes and you're like, oh, now I know that I'll just be ready in 3 more months. But you kind of just hit that point where you're like, okay, well, the game is done. It's been done. And it's kind of like I'm comfortable with my following and I'm comfortable with the planning that I have in place. And then it just all kind of happens. I would say once you have like your game idea and you kind of know what it's going to be and it's a go, I would say get your Kickstarter pre-launch page up just as soon as possible. Um, you don't have to have like your full, this is kind of how it was told to me, that someone said you just have to put in basic information to get your pre-launch set up. So that's what I did, but it got declined, and I got a message saying if it gets declined one more time, then this is going to get canceled. So I mean, I don't know what that looks like on the back end. You probably just create a new Kickstarter project with the same name or something. But get a decent amount, get a rough draft in Kickstarter, and then set up your pre-launch page, because I probably have gotten 50 people just from browsing on
Oh,
Kickstarter, like
interesting.
the so I think that you can see what's coming. You can't search for it specifically, but you can browse through
You
like
browse it.
the
Ah,
hundreds,
I didn't even
but
know
somehow
that was
people found
possible.
it. So
That's cool. Okay, that's good to know.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's important that you have a good kind of summary and starting draft of the content there.
yeah.
Awesome. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about Zoo King and what kind of game it is, and why you think we should back it?
Yeah, so Zoo King is a strategic zoo building card game. It is Zoo Tycoon in a lightweight, family friendly card game. And my inspirations for this game are, you know, as I was mentioning, we're really into these lightweight, medium weight games because that's kind of all we have energy for, right? There's a lot of nights where the kids don't want to go to bed till 10:30 and we're just exhausted, but we have maybe 30 minutes of energy to do something. So this game is maybe in the same weight or vein as Machikoro, Seven Wonders, probably as one person told me once, which I thought was um, a great description. They said, this is the perfect game for when you want to play Wingspan, but you only have the attention span for Sushi Go. So
Ah, nice.
it's
Love it.
most Kickstarter backers will probably consider it a lightweight game, but it's fun. It's super simple. You're drafting animals. You're trying to collect sets in order to win as many awards as possible, but you're trying to manage, what are the different criteria I need to gain? So do I need to get this card? But also managing, you know, kind of your emotions. Oh, I really want the elephant, but he's not going to help me win. So you kind of continually change your strategy, and it's easy to play, but the more you play, you see the interplay between different cards, and you can just keep playing it forever. It's kind of like a fantasy football, but with animals.
Nice.
Pick your zoo team, and then see how it plays out.
Right. I love it. Yeah, I can attest to that. I when I was playtesting it, and it's the pretty much the final version, so it was very well polished and it flowed very well, and but it did give you those tough decisions still, and you could if you're a regular gamer, if you're a hardcore gamer, there's still enough there for you to sink your teeth into and really kind of think ahead and try to strategize, and so that's what I really like about it. But if you're not a hardcore gamer and you just like to play animals and collect animals, you can still do that and still have a good time and still be in the running for having a good score. And I love games like that. So I think
Exactly. Yeah,
you're
that's what I was kind of going for. The game that gamers can introduce their non-gamer friends to get them hooked. It's a little bit intimidating when you're setting it up. You're like, this seems complicated, but when you start playing, you're like, oh, this seems really simple and it's fun. I feel like I'm building a zoo.
Right.
So
Exactly. And that's why I love games like that where everyone who's playing it can have fun. Cool. Well, awesome. So we're going to plan to have you back in about a month to recap how the campaign went and see what you learned from there. Good luck. I'm
thank
rooting
you.
for you. I'll be following along with the campaign, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for being the first guest on
Yes,
KickSaga.
I love it. What an honor. I appreciate it, Matt. We'll see you
All
guys
right.
later.
No worries. Talk to you later.